Hi everyone, and welcome to the third episode of my series about Power BI. Today we're getting into more practical matters. We're going to be discussing how does Power BI work. I'm going to offer you a sneak peek preview into what steps a developer takes in order to deliver a Power BI report for you. Then we're going to be discussing the differences between reports, dashboard, and apps so that it would make it easier for you to recognize them. The first step a developer takes in order to design the report is to connect to multiple data sources. In Power BI, this is done using get data. If you remember from the previous episodes, in Excel you have a similar experience to Power BI if you go to data and get data, and this is the Power Query editor. So if we were to click here to more data sources, you would be able to see that you can connect, for example, to a file. It could be an Excel workbook, or to multiple files in a folder, or you could also connect to a database like a SQL database, or even to an ERP database like Oracle or SAP. You could also connect to online services like SharePoint or Dynamics ERP, the cloud version. After the developer has connected to the data source and imported the data into Power BI, the next step is to transform and clean the data. And for that, again, the Power Query editor is used. This is a step that is sometimes underrated. For my project, it takes maybe 60-80% of the total project time. Power Query is a very powerful tool, and I think should be the bread and butter of every accountant. But about this in a future series. Just to show you what can be done in Power Query, if you want to try it for yourself, you can use a sample dataset. If you click here, you could also launch a tutorial, and that will take you through steps. Just to give you a quick overview, if I click here on load sample data and then select financials and then transform the data, this will import it into the Power Query editor. As you can see, the Power Query editor, it's a tool that doesn't involve any coding or any programming. I can click on the buttons here just like I would click in Excel, and this would clean up my data. I can keep or remove rows, I can remove columns, I can filter on columns, I can even do a type of VLOOKUP that's called merge. After the developer will finish with cleaning up the data, they will close the window and load the cleansed data back into Power BI, and this will show up here on the right side. This is the table with all its columns. Imagine that the developer has done this with multiple tables. If he was to do this in Excel, in order to combine all those tables, he would probably do a VLOOKUP, but this is not really very efficient in Power BI. So what happens instead of doing a VLOOKUP, the cleansed tables are linked together through relationships. So imagine here, for example, I have my sales transactions that are linked to a product, to a customer, to a date table, and so on. Or I could have my GL transactions that are linked to entities and FX rates and so on. Within Power BI Desktop, the developer would create these relationships and would create what is called a data model, for which we have this icon here. After the data model was created, the developer then goes into Power BI Desktop and writes some measures. So this would be similar to Excel formulas. The simplest ones would be sum or count. After the formulas are completed, the last step is the visualization step. So that is, adding charts or tables to the Power BI report. So here, for example, I only have one table, but for example, I want to create a matrix, which is the Excel equivalent of a pivot table. I'll click on the matrix here, and then you can recognize this from pivot tables. I would drag my fields here into rows, columns, or values. When the report has all the visualizations required, the developer would save the file and then publish it to the Power BI service. We're now going to discuss the differences between reports, dashboard, and apps. To help with that, go to your app powerbi.com and log in with your Office credentials. You can then add content, go to samples here, and we'll use the sales and marketing sample as an example. Click connect, and you see it would take a while to import the data. What you can see here once the data has been imported, you can see different icons here. As discussed previously, the first icon you recognize here is the data set. So that is the data model with all the cleansed tables that have been linked together. We then have the blue icon, the report, and the green icon, which is the dashboard. To easily understand this, I would associate the report with an Excel workbook where you have multiple tabs. Here, the tabs included in the report, and they're called the report pages. A report in Power BI is interactive, and what that means is that if you apply filters here, those filters would be applied to all the charts here in the page, and also if you click on one of the charts, this would filter through in the other graphs. We will discuss in the future sessions how to use filtering. Dashboards, on the other side, are not interactive. What dashboards are simple a collection of tiles, meaning a collection of graphs coming from different reports. So for example, in finance, if I had one report for GL, one report for AP, and one for AR, maybe the financial controller or director wants to see the most important metrics in a dashboard. So we would take from the reports those graphs that are the most important and pin them to this dashboard here. So if then the user wants to go and see more detail and to filter on that chart, they would click here, and then it would take them to the source report, and they could apply more filters here to analyze the data. The last type of content is an app, which is a way for designers to bundle and share combination of dashboards and reports together. And this is for multiple reasons. It could be security or to be able to control the versions released. That is all for today. Thanks for joining. If you liked it, please leave a comment or a like, and don't forget to subscribe for the next episode. Thank you.